Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to the healing, the inner slash lost feminine. Now, I said healing slash lost because those words are not necessarily interchangeable, but in the context in which I'm going to go through today, we're going to need both terms. Please excuse my background. I am an artist. I will not further elaborate as to why my background is the way that it is. I'm just an artist. And if you know, you know. So, before we get into the lofty discussion that I wanted to get into today, I wanted to break down a few words, or really break down the statement that I made when I say, or why I titled this series, this video topic, or this discussion topic, Healing the Inner / Lost Feminine. So, the first question that we must ask ourselves is, have our femininity been lost? According to Webster's definition, the meaning of femininity is the quality or nature of the female sex, the quality, state, or degree of being feminine or womanly. Very vague. That's a very vague definition of the feminine. There is so much more to a woman than her sex, her nature, and just being womanly. Because of course, I'm sure a man, like who even is Oxford, if you really ask that question, I'm sure a man made that definition. So there's man's definition, there's the dictionary's definition of the feminine, but there's also God's definition. God, according to the Bible, and if you're part of the Nation of Islam, God, who we believe came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, his definition of woman. There are many definitions of women. But since most of us study the Bible, I'm going to go into the Bible and basically the description of women in the Bible. Now, as I was doing research, there are a lot of women in the Bible, and they were all, defined. They were different women, but a lot of them had similar characteristics. But I specifically wanted to talk about Mary, because she, in a sense, is the definition of the Proverbs 31 woman. And if you are not familiar with that, I'll put like a little post here so you can read what it means to be a Proverbs 31 woman. I'm still learning, that definition and where that came from, because I'm still, I'm not really too familiar with the Bible, but I'm learning. But the Proverbs 31 woman, basically God's definition of a woman, description, a biblical description of a woman. But Sister Mary, the mother of Jesus, she was most pure, most prudent, most humble, most faithful, most devout, most obedient, most patient, and she also was wealthy. She came from a wealthy family. Now, I really advise all of us to do some research. It's one thing for me to tell you all, the Bible's definition or description of a woman, and then, reading the definition according to Google, but we really don't cherish, we don't really value information until and unless we go do the information or the research ourselves. I guess that's human nature. At least that's how I'm way. That's the way I am. I don't believe you until I go do it and go find the information myself. But based off of these definitions, based off of the information that you gather, whenever you decide to do that, I want you to ask yourself, and I'm asking myself this question too. Am I living or reflecting the feminine in which both these two descriptions are describing? And you can disregard the Oxford Dictionary if you want to. If you have God's definition of woman and you are a woman striving to reflect God, then that definition is the only definition that matters. Nothing else matters. Now, I don't know what was going on when I recorded this video, but I completely forgot to mention Master Father Muhammad's definition of a woman. He taught us that the woman is the second self of God, meaning that God, after he created himself, he looked within himself and he found a second self, and he extracted that self, and that self is the woman. We are God's co-creators. God uses the woman to give birth to not only human beings, but ideas. And because we are God's co-creators, God uses us to perfect humanity. We are taught that a nation could rise no higher than its woman. And we are taught our immeasurable value and why we as women need to be reflections of real women once again, because unfortunately in this world we are taught to be everything else but our feminine divine selves. That's what we are taught. That's the definition of a woman that we are taught by Master Father Muhammad, that we are receiving every day or every week as a result of our MGT and GCC classes, which is only for those who are registered in the Nation of Islam. If you're interested, leave a comment below. I can, connect with somebody. So yeah, sorry I didn't bring this up originally. I don't know what was going on in my head, but maybe this voice memo was meant to happen. But based off of your findings of the true definition of what it means to be feminine and to be a woman, are you living up to that standard? Do you reflect that word? Do you reflect that definition? And if not, that means you need to do some healing. And unfortunately, that's most women in America, that's most women in this world, because this world was ran by men who told women how to be women, who told women what they need to be doing, how they should be functioning and whatnot. And unfortunately, we all believed them and we followed suit because we didn't know what else to do. We didn't think too much of ourselves, and we didn't know ourselves. We didn't know our natures. That's why we need to heal the inner feminine. So let's get into the anatomy of healing. Now, what is the definition of heal? Heal, I think I got it from the dictionary, means to become sound or healthy again. So what does that mean? When you get a scrape, when you fall, you have a wound. That wound hurts, maybe bleeding, whatever. Stuff may be coming out of it, may get really nasty. But over time, the more you care for that wound, you put a Band-Aid over, you do what you need to do to make sure that the wound will not spread and get diseased and affect other parts of your body. The more you cater to that wound, the sooner it will begin to heal. Now, your body, you may not ever go back to being the exact same person. That wound may not be, it may not look exactly how it did before the wound, that area, that skin, but you're healed, you're still alive. But you have that reminder right there that happened. But also you have that patch of skin over there to remind yourself that you've healed from that wound. It's the same thing with healing the wounds that we have that are blocking us from being the feminine women that God created us to be. Now, in order to make this make sense on a surface level, because I'm a very surface person, I like to keep things here, because if you go too deep, you lost me. So, since I brought up the example of wounds, let's break down a wound and how it takes, or what it takes for the wound to heal. And I got this from a website. I thought this was a really cool definition or a description. So I'm going to put it on the screen so you guys can watch it or just look at it while I'm going through it. So anyways, there are about 4 steps to healing a wound. The first is stopping the bleeding. The second is inflammation. Step 3 is growth and rebuilding. And step 4 is strengthening. So with step 1, stopping the bleeding is basically, you're stopping the bleeding from coming from that site. You got a cut. The first thing you're going to want to do is put a Band-Aid on it or wipe it with a tissue, whatever. Now, in regards to healing a part of yourself that is damaged, and before you even heal, you have to, of course, do the work within yourself. You have to, of course, open up that part of your mind to even notice and recognize that you have these wounds, that you have these patches that you picked up at some point in your life. You may not know where it came from, but you're not really being who you're supposed to be, or who your inner feminine is calling on you to be, or you struggle to do that. You have to first see that within yourself before you heal. It's not just going to be abracadabra magical. You have to know what you're attacking. You have to see the scratch, right? You have to see the wound on your body to treat it, to heal it. Same thing with your traumas. So back to step 1, stop the bleeding. What does that mean in regards to healing yourself? You have to be aware that you are not living in your feminine nature. Awareness is the first step. You got to see the blood. You got to feel it. You got to feel something ain't right there. Something's leaking. You got to see it. Step 2, inflammation. Basically, identify defaults within yourself and actively begin working on them. Actively Like I mentioned, you have to be able to see these wounds. You have to see the trauma, and it may be difficult, it may be extremely hard, which is why you don't have to do it yourself. You can go to therapy. You can do something called auditing. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but in Dianetics, you don't have to become a member of the org, if you're familiar, but it's simply you going back to your traumatic experience. You just sitting there and thinking about and reflecting over it and repeating it over and over and over again until you are no longer emotionally attached to that memory, that emotion, or that moment in time. So it's just a memory, but you no longer have that emotion connected to that memory. Like it's just something that happens, but you don't feel how you once felt as a result of what has happened. Pretty much again, like how when you hurt yourself, eventually that wound heals, and you can't even feel what you once felt because that wound has healed. That's exactly what auditing is. It's amazing. So that's step 2, therapy, getting auditing. Step 3, growth and rebuilding. After the body found the wound, started to, cover it, it starts to heal itself once you, again, take care of the wound. So step 3 in regards to growth and rebuilding would be accepting of one's nature and beginning the process of growing into one's feminine nature. Now, once you then identify, their wounds, you've attacked them, you've done the work, you've went to therapy, or at least you started, because honestly, I think the healing journey is going to take us a lot of time to get to where we want to be, but the objective is to start. But once you at least start and you accept your nature based off of the information that you get, based off of the knowledge that you learn. I personally learned a lot about my nature, who I am as a woman, as a result of me being in the Nation of Islam and studying the teachings of the Muslim Elijah Muhammad, and specifically listening to everything that he says, along with his student, the Honorable Miss Luz Farrakhan, about women and girls. Me attending my MGT and GCC classes, and also reading many, many books, specifically the book Naturally Beautiful by Sister Ava. I will go grab it, but it's like over there and I don't want to move. But learning about myself as a woman through these spiritual, God-fearing women has helped me understand my nature, understand who I am as a woman. Because once you understand that, and again, you accept your nature, you accept your role as a divine feminine, you accept what God's description of you is, then that's when you start to apply that. And you begin to grow into your feminine nature, because every woman was made to be feminine. So that's a very important process. And when I may be like skipping over a lot of these steps, but these steps take time, they take years. I personally have been on this journey, I can honestly say, since I moved into my first apartment in 2021, because I was left on my own. I was forced to deal with me. A lot of stuff was coming up and nobody else was in the house. I couldn't really blame anybody. It was me. Things that was happening from my past were coming up, and I was like, dang, why do I do that? Why am I thinking this way? Why did I respond that way? It's because you're damaged, sweetheart. Why do you have a hard time being soft and open and transparent and asking for the things that you need help for? Because you have a wound somewhere, sweetheart. You need to break on that. You need to heal. So these things, it takes time. It takes time. But the race is not to the swift nor to the strong, but to the man and the woman who can endure unto the end. So moving on to our next and final stage or step, which is strengthening the wound. Once you get a cut or a wound, it starts to heal itself, and that patch of skin, it will re-strengthen itself so that it's as if nothing happened before. Like, again, you'll still see the wound, the bruise will still be there, but it no longer affects you, no longer bothers you, because the emotion or the feeling is gone. So that fourth step is strengthening and building and falling in love with being in your divine feminine energy, your divine feminine nature. As a result, you begin to attract whatever it is that God wants you to be, because it is in the woman's nature, the female, the feminine, it is the feminine's ability to attract. That's literally what we do. The egg does not chase the sperm. The egg is just there. There are billions of sperm that come up the cervix and then over into the uterus. The egg chases No, the egg does not chase. The sperm chases. The egg is just there. It is women's nature to receive. So when you are in your feminine nature, you will receive whatever it is that you desire and whatever God blesses you with. And I'm saying this because this is something that I can honestly bear witness to. I've attracted so many things in my life. Of course I did work. Of course I had to do action to get them. But me literally just thinking about certain things have attracted them into my life. For example, I'm just bringing this up for now. I knew back in 2022, I really wanted to go to Disney. No, 2021. I really wanted to go to Disney World. But I was kind of scared to go on my own or whatnot. And lo and behold, I was blessed with the opportunity to go after a few months later to go after seeing some random tickets for a certain price. And I just had this feeling man, I knew this is the perfect price right now for this perfect time. I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. But I'd rather use another explanation. When it comes to my closest friend, Sister Naya, and if you watch this video, you probably know who that is. I was living my best life. I was happy. I was enjoying where I was in life. I was traveling. I was content with who I was. And then I met her back in fall 2021. 2021 was a beautiful year for me. All praises due to Allah. But when I tell you, when I first met her, she's a reflection. I don't know what y'all heard, but she's a reflection of everything that I wanted in a sister. Because at the time I didn't really have too many, close friends. This was after high school, so all I was doing was working, minding my business, doing what I was doing. But she was literally an answer to a prayer. I always wanted somebody to create content with, do all these different things, live and enjoy life and serve the people with. And I finally was blessed with her. And I knew it was from Allah because it just was so beautiful. It was so effortless. And that's just one small example. I have so many examples of me just living or striving to be in my feminine energy, and things just come my way because God blesses me with them, or I attracted them with my own mind and me just striving to be feminine, So it's a beautiful journey. And I hope this all made sense. That was kind of a lot of information, but those are the steps to healing a wound. And I figured, hey, if we're talking about healing a wound, what's this? It's just the same thing when it comes to healing a spiritual wound or a wound when it comes to, So sorry, my alarm ended the video. But yeah, those are the 4 steps to heal a wound. And before I end this video, I want to share this last part of the 4 steps to healing a wound, because I feel like it's really important. And I'll break it down. So over time, the new tissue gets stronger. You might notice stretching, itching, and even puckering of the wound as that happens. The wound gains strength quickly over the first 6 weeks of healing. In about 3 months, the wound is 80% as strong in its repair as it was before the injury. But the wound area will never reach 100% of its original strength. Depending on the size and the severity of the wound, the entire healing process might take up to a couple of years to complete. See, years. It can take years for you to fully heal, and you will never fully be back to who you once were, and that's the objective. You're not supposed to be back. You're not supposed to heal and become who you once were. Problems, trials, all of that. We heal to become better people. We heal to become who God put us on this earth to be, not to be who Anora once was or who you once were. No, you heal and become who God wants you to be. And that can take years. But again, it's a process, it's a journey, and you have to enjoy the journey. You have to enjoy the process. So I thank you guys for watching this. I have another episode in which we're going to go over the atonement process for those who really want to attack those wounds, because it's one thing to just say, I forgive myself, but it's another thing to actually go through the process of atoning with oneself and atoning with whoever you need to atone with, because maybe they hurt you. And we have to remember, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you, because that thought, that feeling, that emotion is going to keep eating you alive unless you do something with it, unless you forgive, but you never forget. But anyways, again, thank you guys so much for watching. And before I conclude, I want to say, why must the lost feminine, why must the inner feminine be healed? Why? Like, what's the point of doing any of this work? What's the point of going in and, healing the womb? Like, what's the point? Because a life lived in one's nature and in one's truth is a life of happiness, because you are living in your authentic self. Why do you think little girls are so happy? Because they're free. They are literally in their nature, being little girls, just la la la, free. You can do that again. You can be that again. What happens when you're in a little girl? Life happened. Trauma happened. She has been dimmed. But this is why the lost and feminine has to be healed. And that's why we're going to do that. Love you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.